What's up guys, it's Leffen, and no, the title is not clickbait. I've been working on this for a really long time behind the scenes, testing, helping, giving feedback, and I've been trying to keep it a secret, but it's been hard to not say anything, but I think we managed to do it. So before I do any explaining, bore you to death with the details, let's just look at a very simple clip. Here, we have me starting up Melee. It's a new version. What is this? What is this UI? Unranked mode, press start to search. I'm sure you have many questions right now. So, to explain it, this is me matchmaking in Rollback Melee with Zane. Zane lives in the MDVA in the east of the US. I'm from Sweden and this is over 100 ping. If you zoom in here, you can see the insane ping and then look at the gameplay.
Dude, it feels so good. That's insane.
And as you can see and hear, it feels amazing. It feels like offline. I'm sure you have many questions. What did I just watch? How is this possible? What is rollback? So I'm going to explain it to you. I'll say it again. This is over 100 ping and it's smooth. It feels like offline. Now, there's some visual artifacting. You can see it here, like if you look. But I'm going to explain all of that. I'm going to explain what's still so much better than anything you've seen before when it comes to online for Smash. And we're going to go through why this is honestly what I believe to be the biggest thing to happen to the Smash community since the documentary or, net play itself being a thing for Melee. There's a lot of things that people ask. So this will not be a how to set this up video. If you want a video on that or for me to go super in detail on how to rollback works itself in Melee, what is required for a game to run rollback, all these things, drop a like in the video and I'll see what I can do. But for now, we're going to keep it pretty basic. So let's start with a walkthrough of what is so wrong with the regular net play for both Melee and Ultimate. Now, fighting games have always had a rough time when it comes to online, but I think Smash has always had it even worse, whether it comes down to Melee not having any type of online natively and not even through emulator for many years when others had it, or when it comes to Ultimate and having an online that is so bad that honestly I would prefer having no online at all. I'm not going to sit here and complain about Elite Smash and how bad Ultimate Online is. Not because I don't have time or the will to do it, but because my therapist tells me that I might have a stroke if I bring up the number of input lag frames you get in Ultimate, even playing under perfect conditions. So instead, we have a clip here made by, let's call him Lord. Thank you, Lord, for this clip. This clip was uploaded yesterday as of recording, and this is just an example of Hungrybox playing a Sonic player in an online tournament for money, and you can just see how laggy it is. Now, there are conditions that are better than this, but Ultimate Online, even under perfect conditions, is still unbelievably bad. And the fact that it also costs a monthly subscription to Nintendo Online to use it at all is... I don't have words for it. Either way, having a good online is such a huge deal. Ultimate having a bad online is ultimately... I guess that's a pun. The reason why I quit competing in the game, and now during the quarantine, many players have stated that they just don't like Ultimate much when they just can play online. They don't have offline to look forward to, and yeah, who can blame them? Even for other games, this is an issue. Now Melee's netcode is a lot better. Let's go through that. Melee's netcode is also delay-based netcode. However, it is much better netcode. So you can't really compare the two other than in just how they're structured, which is that they're both delay-based. Due to the nature of delay-based, unfortunately, you have some problems. Right here, we have a clip. It is me versus Prison. We have 20 ping. You can't see it here, but I promise I play with Prison a lot. I'll just let this clip play. You're going to see here, if you notice, that right here, the game stutters real bad. Let me play again. right? But yeah, this is just the problem. These kind of stutters, they happen a lot, especially if you have a bad internet provider, which America has a lot of, and they just drop inputs. They keep the game from feeling smooth, from feeling like offline. And this gets worse when it's from longer distance. So next up, we have a clip from Kalindi and me playing. So right here, we have a clip of me versus Kalindi, or KJH. He's a Michigan Fox player. And yeah, I mean, it's Sweden to Michigan. It's 130, 140 ping. And you can see what this is like. The game is chugging. It's not running at full speed. And even then it's stuttering. It's just absolutely unplayable. Feels like awful. But if we increase the buffer enough, it starts to look smoother, but it will still have lag spikes, and honestly, it just feels like glue. So what I'm more or less trying to say is that delay-based netcode is never going to be perfect. It's never going to feel like offline because you'll always have stutters, even under perfect circumstances. Both people living close, having low ping, and both being on Ethernet. Now, as you see here, if the circumstances are less than ideal, far away, let's say someone's on Wi-Fi, you'll have massive stutters, the game won't run at full speed sometimes. It will just be a miserable experience. So what instead happens is that Melee players and other people with delay-based netcode, they just play with other people very close to them, which kind of is already defeating a little bit of the great part of online that you can play people from across the world. But more specifically, I think this is really big deal for Melee because in Melee, a little bit of a skill disparity, being a little bit better than someone, can be a huge deal when it comes to like match to match who takes what amount of stocks. If you're even slightly better than someone, you might force stock them, and then that person might get force stocked by someone else. Now, in Melee, I would say it's pretty fun to get force stocked sometimes, but you know, not a lot of people want to get into a game and just get absolutely destroyed. But the problem is, since you can't play people from across the world, your player pool of available opponents with smooth matches, relatively smooth matches at least, is much, much smaller than it should be because delay-based netcode requires such good conditions. This means that new players can find other new players to fight against, and good players can't find other great players to play against. And yeah, if you're searching at anything less than peak hours, you might struggle to find a match at all in many games. All right, so here is me versus Kalindi again. Still 140 ping, as you can see up in the corner, but now we're playing rollback. First thing you'll notice is it's not laggy. You will see some visual artifacts, and let me explain those in a second, but trust me when I say that playing this, it feels buttery smooth. There's no lag spikes on my character. I'm playing Sheik in this scenario. The only thing that happens is that occasionally you will see the opponent teleport a little bit. Now, this will basically never ever happen if you're playing against someone below 80, 60, 70 ping. But even when they do happen, they're so much better than what they're replacing. And what they're replacing is essentially the lag stutter or lag spike. When a lag spike happens, let's say if you're ledge dashing, you will suicide, you will die. But, you know, since your character's never ever teleporting, right? It's never lag spiking. It's always one-to-one. It's never waiting for the internet before it gives you inputs. What this does is it makes it so that you will never really feel like your character's lagging. You will always feel in control. Sometimes your character will get hit by something and there will be a slight stutter if you're playing in very, very high ping situations, such as 130 or 140 ping as this is. But it's still very much playable, and especially during combos, you will basically see no teleporting at all, as you can probably see from watching this clip. You can still reaction tech chase. Setting your own delay when those teleports happen, or rollbacks as they're called. All that, I could go further in, but I think the main thing is that you just gotta try it. Like, people do not understand how playable this is. Like, it's 140 ping. It's kind of insane amounts of delay. Next up, I will show you a much more realistic scenario, me playing versus Prison again, and you can kind of notice that it looks just basically like offline Melee. All right, so now we have me versus Prison. It's still 20 ping, and there might be some super small lag stutters still due to the recording just not being perfect, but honestly, it's so much better than playing regular Melee. I don't think I can really show you through a YouTube video, but trust me when I say that if you've ever had problems with online Ultimate, if you've ever had problems with Melee online, you need to try this. Some people might notice, well, It says delay 2 in the bottom right. Doesn't that mean that we have more delay now? Isn't that delay? And if you played regular fighting games, right, you might have noticed that some of them have a delay counter. This is up here. It says like delay 4, delay 8. And this is what happens when you don't use rollback netcode. It moves constantly, and this is why it feels so terrible to play regular delay-based netcode sometimes, when it's not during perfect conditions. You see that the counter moves, but as you can see here, the frame rate is very, very stable. Now, not only is it stable, right, which is a great thing, but the most important thing that you might forget is that because Melee runs faster on an emulator than it does on a GameCube, playing on 2-frame delay on a proper setup that most people have these days means that you will be playing at the same type of input delay or extremely close to, like not noticeable really, as playing on a GameCube on a CRT, you know, under absolute perfect conditions. What this means is that essentially you will be able to play against people from much, much bigger regions. Like all of the US can probably play, US can play Europe. I've played people again, like from California, and I'm from Sweden, and it's still playable and still fine without having to increase my delay much at all, like 1 frame at most, which is again better than the absolute best conditions you could have in even good delay based netcode. So this is just going to open up a massive thing. Like for me, I can maybe enter tournaments, and the tournaments that you do enter will be so much more stable. You won't have to deal with, you know, someone having a slight lag spike issue ruining you a set, and it just increases the amount of people that you can play with, which is one of the things that makes this such a huge thing specifically for Melee. And again, I don't know if I mentioned this, but yeah, as you can see, there's basically, I don't think I've seen a single, you know, teleport or stutter or rollback despite, you know, us playing online. So that's just to show you how the average connection will look like when you're actually playing compared to, you know, 130, 140, which I've shown you before. So outside of just being able to play more opponents, one very important key of this is just how smooth and easy it is to find matches, the matchmaking part of it all. Now, if you click here, this is how you usually find matches in Melee, right? Like you either go through a Discord or you go through Anther's Ladder. And Anther's Ladder, as you can see, is not very big for Europe. There's 2 people online right now, and generally it just takes a lot of setup. You can start matchmaking, you press this, like the UI is clunky, especially if you have the chat open. Both recommended, there's a whole thing here. You have to create an account. You might find a match, and then when you find a match, I'll challenge this guy, I'll challenge this guy. I'm waiting, still waiting. I found a match. All right, hello. You have to interact with your opponent, which is, can you host? No answer. Now he puts his code. I have to copy the code. You open up Dolphin. You press start net play. You copy paste the code. You pick up your controller. You have to manually set your delay. We're in a match. I'll full screen it. I'll put on the fixes. Turn off the rumble, set the music. And now we're finally in the game. All right, and here is the new version as a comparison. This is just the beta, but here's how it looks right now. You open up the game, press unranked, press your character, press start to search, and you got a match. I'll quit out here to show. You can, in this mode, once you're connected, you can keep playing, you can stop playing, you can press Z to disconnect. There's just a lot of things you can do. It's just so much easier, and it just makes it a lot more fun to get up, start Melee, play for 15, you know, find a new opponent. Really makes playing Melee a lot more fun and takes away a lot of the jank and weird stuff you have to do right now. So by this point, hopefully I have most of you guys convinced that this is amazing and that you want to try it out. But if not, let me explain to you how this came to be and why rollback is so rare, even for games that clearly need it, like Ultimate. So rollback netcode is amazing, but it does have one major flaw. And that flaw is that you kind of have to build around it. What does that mean? Well, it means that because of how rollback works, because you have to be able to roll back the games and teleport characters essentially forward or back in time to get a smooth experience, you need to design the game engine a little bit around this. And this is not something that most Japanese developers have been known to do. They're finally getting around to with Arxis doing it for Guilty Gear Strive. But obviously, Ultimate is not one of these games. And Melee was not one of these games either. Melee didn't even have online at all. So how did this happen? People thought it was essentially impossible, or at least highly improbable, because you would have to recode so much. So the way this was done is by one guy in 6 months. And I'm not kidding you, one guy, 6 months. For the Mortal Kombat team that already know how to work with rollback, who made rollback for Injustice and Mortal Kombat 11, it took their team several years, they said, to just retrofit it, which means that they already had it done and they just need to port it back into their old game, Mortal Kombat 10. It took them several years of man time. Now, how was this done in 6 months? Well, it was done by one guy called Slippi, or well, Fizzy, but he does make Slippi. Fizzy is the guy that makes Slippi, and you probably already know if you're in the Melee community, but if you don't, well, here's a quick rundown. Slippi allows you to take info from a Wii or an emulator in real time and then put it into use. This means that you can both get stats. This is from Summit. You see most common kill move by Hungrybox, most common neutral opener, both back here. Well, that's Jigglypuff. You know, moving on, let's not get stuck up. Inputs per minute, damage per opening, stock count, timer, all these things, right? But it's also how most people stream the game these days. You can see here, this is streamed through Slippi in real time. And this is how the game looks with a 480p, which is a good capture card. So if you're wondering why streaming looks really good in Melee now, this might be the reason why. So more or less, this one guy has already done a ton for the Melee community. But to do the rollback and make it work for Melee, he had to actually quit his job and spend 6 months alone working on this stuff. So as I said, I helped test this. I gave some pointers, some feedback, gave my opinion and tried to help as much as I could. But by the point I got to try it and got to help, which was one of the first players, it was already incredibly far along and I could not believe it. I just my jaw just dropped. And every person I played with, top players all over the world, it's just been like, what the heck? What is this? How? So yeah, I just have to give insane props. Now again, you can get this today, and listen, you can get this version completely free if you want to, because Slippi or Fizzy is launching this with a pay what you want model, as you can see here. But again, this guy quit his job to do this full time, and I was already a supporter on his Patreon before I knew any of this rollback, just for the Slippi stuff, just because how important that has been for the community. And listen, this is something that a $1 billion company, Nintendo, could not do for their game, or even anything close to it. So I urge you, if you have anything over, give this man a little bit of money. I know I will. You can try it out first, but I really, really think that if you want to support people doing stuff like this, making some of the money lost back, I don't think he expects to go with a profit or anything from, not quitting a high-paying job to do Melee coding, but I think it's good to give back to one of our own. And I just want to be clear that I do not get any of the cut, nothing. I just want to help someone that has helped the Melee community and the Smash community at large take a huge step forward. So the download link and everything else, including more info on how rollback works, future plans and stuff, is all in the description below. Now, again, if you want to see more features, because this is still in development, I really urge you, support this man so we can keep doing it, so we can see more things. Already on the way is a spectator mode, stage select, and my favorite thing, which is matchmaking with ranked skill base. We're talking ELO, and we're not talking some elite Smash GSP type of shit. We're talking Leffen approved and consulted. I will help make sure that this ranked matchmaking is the best you could get, right? I'm sure you have many more questions, but I don't want this video to go too long. If you have more questions right now, then I would advise you to go over to my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Leffen. I'll be streaming this a ton, and I'll be answering questions constantly on how to set it up, how this works, why it's so much better, all that stuff. Yeah, subscribe to the YouTube if you want more content. I'll be posting much more regularly now, including Deep Leffen, the Twitter bot, live reading of tweets, Q&A, a video on how to actually fix Smash Ultimates online. Yes, there is a way. So yeah, hope you enjoyed and stay tuned for the next one.